As a nice recap on the tail end of this lesson, we've got a summary of our rules, all these wonderful rules we have to follow as a CPA. And here are just notes on those rules, some important points to know, most of which we've gone over. Now, over here, you'll see that who has to follow these rules? Well, sometimes those in public practice have to follow rules. And what does that mean? These are active CPAs in auditing firms. Let's just think of that. Members in business. So let's say you are a CPA, but you work as an accountant for a company. So you're not a CPA auditor, but you still recognize yourself as a CPA. You're still registered and you put CPA after your name and you're doing accounting work. And then we have a third group of people. These are retired / unemployed CPAs. So those who are not currently doing any accounting work, but these are people that do have to follow some rules. I'll actually start with them just because they only have one rule they have to follow. And that is the acts discreditable rule. Now, really what it's saying, yeah, cool. You're either not working because you're retired or unemployed, but it doesn't matter. You can't do any of these things. You can't do any discriminatory acts. You can't retain client records. If they ask for them back, you need to give them back. They'll allow you to follow standards. So everyone needs to follow these rules, as you see here. Everyone's got to follow all of these rules. You can't do anything bad. Negligently making journal entries, failure to file timely tax return. So you need to do that yourself. Also, soliciting or disclosure of CPA. You can't solicit, and we'll talk about that here. Try to get business based on that CPA license. Misleading a claim on ability to perform services. You can't say you're able to do something while you're not able to do it. Just make sure you're acting ethically. All right, that is the essentially that rule there. Disclosing confidential information without consent. Lots of problems. Now, the difference between a CPA who's working, let's say, as an auditor, and a CPA who's just working as an accountant for a company, there's some differences. So, someone who has to work for the company, they're not going to be independent. If anything, they might not be independent because they've got stock options. Right? If you work as an accountant for a company, you want to do as best of a job as possible because you're working for the benefit of that company. You're not going to be independent with regard to your own company. Not the company you own, but the company you work for, your employer. They're literally paying you, so you can't be independent there. But auditors, CPAs in public practice working for a public accounting firm need to be independent. And here we see all of those points we covered with independence. When it comes to integrity and objectivity, you need to be free of conflicts, meaning you just need to have integrity and you need to be objective. And who is that? That's both CPAs in public practice as well as CPAs working for companies. Both of those groups need to follow the general standards, which involves our professional competence, due professional care, adequate planning and supervision. And I'm actually just going to group in these other ones. Compliance with standards, so following accounting standards, and your compliance with accounting principles. You need to follow all of those items if you are both in a CPA in public practice as well as for a company. We've also got our rule on confidential client information. This is just for your auditors, your CPAs at public accounting firms, because if you are working for a company, well, you're the client, right? So you can't worry about that confidential information. Like, you are the client, so there's no confidential client information to worry about. All right, talking about here, quality control review. We'll talk about that in our quality control lesson. You can give up information if you're subpoenaed. We'll actually talk about that in our audit documentation. Prospective CPA is confidentiality assured. We want to make it known to the client that confidentiality is assured because we are a CPA, right? We are following that rules, and you can trust us because you're a CPA. We're upholding the business, upholding the reputation of the AICPA. Contingency fee rules, we talked about this here. It is allowed if you're dealing with the IRS in that IRS ruling, and it's allowed if you are doing compilation, if you disclose your lack of independence. Not as important as the tax ruling there. Then we talked about these acts discreditable. Don't do any of them. Just don't. You cannot advertise with your CPA license. Think about it. You've never seen a commercial on TV for, hey, get your audit done by ABC CPAs. You have not seen that, and there's a reason for that. You are mainly going to actually act with commissions and referral fees. So you see right here, commissions and referral fees, that is totally allowed. So there are rules with that, but I've seen that many times in public work. I've been at a firm. Our firm currently does not have capacity to do an audit or do work for someone, so you refer it to another CPA firm for a percentage of that revenue. And that's okay because you're not breaching independence there. You're just saying, hey, this client came to us, was willing to pay us. We don't have time or resources to get that audit done. So if we give it to another CPA firm, which is a competitor, right? Why would we do that? Well, we'll do that for, let's say, 5% of the audit fees. It's kind of like a finder's fee. It's like a real estate agent. And lastly here, the form and organization rule. All CPA owners must be AICPA registered if designated with their license. And you can't be a CPA firm unless all the owners of the firm are CPAs. Recap of the rules here. Make sure you're familiar with these. Covered most of the important ones throughout the lesson. If there were ones that we did not cover, they're probably not as important. And let's wrap it up with one last chart I have for you. Here is our professional standards and guidelines. Now, this is the authoritative literature, and these are two sections which you would find there. You could see these for authoritative literature questions on the exam. And what do we have? We have the Code of Professional Conduct. Now, if you actually want to see this, right, go into the authoritative literature, and it's the ET section. Who created that? The AICPA. And this is exactly the description that we had in the beginning because it's pulled directly from the AICPA. Who does it apply to? It applies to the members of the AICPA and members in public practice, all of that, like we talked about on the prior slide. You've also got your statements on quality control standards. We'll actually see this in quality control lesson. This is just another part of the authoritative literature. These are documents created by the AICPA with rules. And this talks about how a CPA firm needs to maintain quality control system, how they're going to get reviews, and make sure that they are actually acting ethically. They're doing a good job. You're going to make sure that you essentially, as an auditor, you're getting audited to make sure that you did a proper audit, right? So you'll see that in our quality control lesson. This applies to CPA firms that provide auditing, attestation, and accounting and review services. We'll see SARS, SSAE even more. And with that being said, nice little wrap up there. Let us end with a summary. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.